Well, first of all, I just want to thank each of you for being here. One of the things that has always impressed me so much, being in Congress for now 3.5 years and 35 years in business, is folks like yourself that will take time away from your businesses to come here to testify because you know it helps the greater good for businesses in America. And most business owners in America don't have time. They just want to be left alone so that they can go compete in their respective industries. So thank you. And there's never a time more like the present to engage in cost issues in our small businesses in America. NFIB's report that just came out yesterday, small business owners' expectations for the future at a 48-year low. 48-year low. That's devastating when you couple that on top of everything else going on. There's nothing worse, as you all know, as business owners, to sit there and just really feel like they're being beat down from every angle, but you persevere. As you all know, last June, Leader McCarthy launched 7 task forces to develop a policy agenda for our future Republican majority. And I'm proud to have the opportunity to serve on the healthcare task force, dubbed the Healthy Future Task Force, and chair the subcommittee on affordability. Our goal is to hit the ground running with sound policies in January. With a year under our belt, our subcommittee is proud to present our plan to make healthcare more affordable by improving healthcare options for workers and small business owners, improving innovation and transparency, and lowering costs and increasing options with competition. Today we'll talk about the first section, improving healthcare for workers and small businesses. The first bucket on the employer market is very close to me. As you know, as we just talked about before coming to Congress, I spent 35 years as a business owner. I navigated the complex and expensive processes of offering my health care to my employees. I had the opportunity to work on this at a national level when I served in the McDonald's National Leadership Team and advising 3,500 franchisees across the country as we were getting into Obamacare. For years, Republicans have focused on the Obamacare markets, and while there's a lot of work to do here, it's important to me that we look at the employer market, not only because it's the largest healthcare market, but also to protect it. As a free market conservative and a business guy, I want to keep costs down for the small businesses across America, not only to protect their bottom line, but also to protect the system from becoming a government-run Medicare for All program. As you know, employer-sponsored healthcare started out as a recruiting tactic many years ago to attract the best customers and best employees. We're now at a place where, because of government mandates that force employers to offer health care, employers are more focused on compliance and paying the larger bills than making sure their employees actually have good coverage and benefits. We can't move to a place where employers are looking at plans that reward healthy choices and preventive medicine, which is better for all of us in the long run, when employees are just trying to pay the bills and get by. The agenda sheet in front of you goes over the highlights of our plan for small businesses and their workers. At a high level, the plan, number one, removes unnecessary laws on the books like outdated Obamacare paperwork mandates, limitations on what HSAs can be used for. Secondly, our plan puts you in charge of your health care by making the cost of healthcare services transparent and available for you to shop around, and letting you take your health care to whatever job you go to. And third, it gets big government out of the way of small business owners by allowing them to band together and negotiate good deals as association health plans, and allowing employers to participate in new innovative payment arrangements like direct contracting with your local family doctor office. Finally, I want to thank you all for being a part of our process for developing this plan. The solutions we're working towards have American workers at the center, and I'm so glad to have hardworking small business owners here today to celebrate the path forward to affordable health care under this subcommittee's work. And now I'd like to yield to my dear friend, Rick Allen from Georgia, for his remarks.
Good. Well, thank you, Congressman Hearn. Of course, Congressman Hearn, like me, served in ran a small business for 35 years. I was 40 years. And so we know what it's like out there for you. And to give you the credit, in the last economic expansion, thanks to you, we created 70% of all the new jobs in this country. It was not big business, it was folks like we have sitting at this table. And this place needs to recognize that. In fact, I told the Secretary of Labor that yesterday. You know, we had 160 million people working in this country just three years ago, before COVID. And now we've got 138 million. And this administration saying that they have the greatest job growth in history. But you know, I know firsthand the barriers that you face. In fact, it affects employers of all sizes, and it's difficult. Very competitive workplace out there today. You know, trying to obviously in the small business we're like a family, so we're able to retain our folks, but it's getting new people in the system that is the problem right now. I want to thank all of you for being here, taking your time to come here and to express your thoughts and give us the ability to go and make a difference. And I want to thank you for that. I serve on the House Education and Labor Committee as the lead Republican of Health, Employment, Labor, Pensions Subcommittee. We have jurisdiction over ERISA, which is the employer-sponsored health plans, which currently covers about 155 million American workers. My work on both the House Education and Labor Committee and the Healthy Future Task Force Affordability Subcommittee is centered around lowering the cost of health care for workers and their families and providing innovative solutions so that more small businesses are able to offer health care coverage and encourage workers to utilize this benefit. I have asked every expert in Washington, D.C., including the Secretary of Health and Human Services, for every dollar we send to Washington in premium and taxes to provide health care for America, how much actually gets back to take care of a patient? And I have yet to get an answer. Is that amazing? We want all Americans to have, I mean, really, I mean, every expert I go to, I said, break this down, peel the onion back, okay? Let's see where the money's going. We want all Americans to have a high quality, affordable, and personalized approach to their health. We got to remove the barriers for employers, especially small businesses such as you, to band together in association health plans and make it easier to participate in advanced payment initiatives like direct contracting, high performance networks, and centers for excellence for purchasing health care. I look forward to our hearing from all of you today so that we can discuss the best path forward to expand employer-based coverage for your employees and ensuring that American workers can get the most of this benefit. It is our hope to be in the majority come January, and we want to hit the ground running. So that's why we're doing this work ahead of time. We want to be prepared. We want to make a difference for America and get this country on the right path. Thank you so much for being here.
Rick, thanks. Now we're going to go around the room and let everybody introduce themselves. We'll start with Melissa.
Thank you for having us here.
Let's get this around here.
Thank you. I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and I own a commercial office products and business furniture company. Last September, I also purchased a pool table home sports company. So combined, we have 38 employees, and I've been in business since 2000. And the year we started, I thought, well, it's going to be impossible to offer the kind of health insurance that we all experienced when we worked for bigger corporations, and I was pleased to find that we could. We were able to offer insurance to all of our employees. We paid 75% of the premium for the entire family, and that was 22 years ago. That is not the case today. Today, through those years, we've dwindled now to paying 60% of the premium for the individual. It's a high deductible plan, and our increases over the last 5 years have all been more than 10%. Prior to that, I had a year at 35%, another one at 16%. So it's been steady throughout those years. We offer up to our employees the opportunity to look at the plans, make a decision about what will work for them, and generally what they really prefer is a high deductible plan because the premiums are so high. They end up paying about $250 a month for an individual. If they buy up, it could be up to $1,100 a month for an entire family. And that also is for a high deductible plan. What they really want to see is something that gives them some security, something that they can count on year over year that won't have these increases that are unmanageable. I don't know how many years I can do 10%, 10%, 10%, 10%. That's a little scary, but it's something that they all need, and the transparency in it is, it may be transparent, but it's transparent in a plan that's 60, 70 pages long. It's really hard to understand and absorb all of that. So,
Well, thank you.
thank you.
Daryl?
Good morning. Thank you for your time, and really appreciate having like-minded leadership here in Congress. My name is Daryl Feil. Own a business called Abate Weed, which is a weed abatement company, as you would think. And my father started it in 1965, so I'm second generation. Bought the business from him in 2000. We employ currently 25 employees. It was about 35 pre-COVID, so we've had to pare down a little bit, but we're surviving. I think one of the top three things that keep me awake at night is the labor issue. Just having a hard time cannot find people to work anymore. And secondly, our costs, which includes your taxes, but also health insurance. And then number three is the green movement, I guess you could call it, that's constantly pressure. So our health insurance plan is, we start out with employees, the first 2 years we cover 50%, and then years 3 and 4 we cover 75%, and then starting at year 5 we do 85%. So we had a number of years ago started at 85%, but we've had to pare that back, and it's very difficult to be competitive in the market to find the new employees when you can't really offer that. But of the 25 employees we have, our monthly bill is about $8,600 a month to cover insurance for that. So that's where we're at.
Thank you so much. Jeff?
Jeff Hastings, wife and I own Burke Brothers Hardware in Raleigh, North Carolina. Store was started in 1936, and I purchased the store from the second generation. Up until about 12 years ago, we offered health insurance for all of our employees. We paid 50% of the premium for spouse and family. And then when escalating prices got to the point about 7 years ago, we met with the employees and offered them the ability to pay them monthly what we were paying in our insurance premium, because we were probably going to be exiting. Every one of them took us up on the offer. The challenge I see for us a little bit is, shoppability for the insurance for one thing, but some transparency, if you will. We have one employee whose spouse works as a school teacher. So he was taking advantage of our program, but the truth of the matter is he was dual coveraged with us and with his wife's program. And so trying to find some transparency to see if, peel back the onion, so to speak, that allow employers to verify. We have another employee that has often spoke about his long-term girlfriend being his wife, when truth of the matter is we were covering them, but she was not eligible to be covered for a long period of time because we couldn't look into those issues. But I think I do think I see brighter days ahead. Our employees are receptive to going back to a plan, and we're going to probably start looking at that in the year 23 to offer that to them. Our average length of employment is 27 years. So we keep them, and we want to keep them. And so it's just the next step, but it's just trying to figure out how to open the book. Once you get in the book, I think it'll be okay, but it's just trying to get into the book to figure out how to navigate the waters.
Leslie, did you think, Jeff? Leslie, did you have anything you wanted to correct Jeff on?
Thank you.
No, we practiced. He did exactly what
Yeah.
Good job, Jeff.
Good job.
Jeff is a quick learner.
Nothing that 30 years of marriage doesn't teach you. That's right.
No, thank you so much. Neil?
Hi, I'm Neil Abram. I can get a microphone here, although I'm usually the loudest guy in the room. I'm Neil Abramson with Cutie Patooties in Leominster, Massachusetts. My wife and I started this company 24 years ago. Amazingly, not only are we still in business, but we're still married. So we're. I'm a quick learner too, but I got 3 generations of women under my roof, so I know. Yes, and I also employ. All but one of our 25 employees is a woman and a mother. We have a overwhelmingly predominantly female workforce that we're very blessed with, and we're blessed to be able to offer health insurance. And that's not an easy decision, but it's the right decision for our team, for our community, to do that, so that we can get quite often, sometimes we have mothers that are working just for that. They're working for that. As a company, we pay half of it. And that is a challenge, especially in Massachusetts, where the average health insurance increase last year was 12%. But we were told we're above average, we're special, and we got hit with a 17.2% increase. And when we dug into it and everything else, they said, "Congratulations and happy birthday, you turned 50." And you won that. You know, I'm no stranger to healthcare. I won the ovarian lottery and was born into, my father was the town pharmacist in upstate New York, and I spent my whole formative years working in the pharmacy and saw the changes to healthcare and all the barriers that went up from being a very community-oriented where doctors, pharmacists, specialists all work together for the good of their patient, and saw the outcome and worked for the progressive outcome, to walls being put up to stop that. And a simple but sad example is just recently, about a month and a half ago, I donated blood on a Friday. I'm a regular blood donor. Donate blood on a Friday. By Tuesday, my arm had swollen up like crazy. I was like, yeah, this isn't wrong. This isn't right. I called my doctor. He's like, oh, you should go to urgent care, get it checked out. I go to urgent care to get it, stop by the urgent care to get it checked out. After they got me checked in, they said, oh, we can't help you. You need to go to the emergency room. I chose the wrong urgent care, and that was $600 to do. And, you know, at the hospital, the nurse said, oh, we're giving you the $1 million workup. You know, so that was another $3,000 at the hospital out of pocket. And I have what I thought was a good Blue Cross plan. You know, you have this coverage, and you end out with all these unexpected expenses for doing something good. You know, I mean, that's just the side effect. Things happen. I can't fault the Red Cross or the person who drew my blood, but infections happen. So the cost and the spiraling costs are unsustainable. You know, you refer it back to Egg McMuffins. That's a lot of Egg McMuffins you got to sell to make back the $3,000. I got to sell a lot of kid shirts at $5 to make back that kind of money. That is a lot, and we're continuing to invest in our business and growing. Got new flooring going in today, which is not cheap because we believe in the future, but we need an easier path. Thank you for helping us know that we're not alone.
Thanks, Dan. Andy, you want to give us an update on what you do?
Yeah, my name is Andy Ellard. Own a company called Manda Machine Company. We're a machine shop in Dallas, Texas. It's third generation family business. Grandfather started in 1950, and then my dad took over in the early 80s, and then we bought it from him in 2002. Just had an older brother retire, so now there's 2 of us left. For us, you know, it's been a path of, say, 10 years ago, we paid 100% of employees and 100% of the families, right? And then the next year it would be 100% employees, 50% of the families. And they just kept going and going until we got to a point where we didn't do the percentages anymore. We said, we'll give you a dollar amount. And so right now we're at $400 an employee, and then they can use it for what they want. The problem is that when healthcare insurance, the premiums go up, the employee's paycheck bottom dollar goes down, and so they think they're getting a pay cut. And they just don't understand that. And so, at some point, you can't keep paying and paying and paying. And that's where we're at. And I'll tell you, so for me in business, June is kind of the worst month. And the reason is because that means it's time to look at health insurance. And it's never going to be good. It isn't. It's just another expense that we have to incur. And then you talk to people, just pass it on to the customer. Well, our business is a bid business. We quote every single job we do. And once you get that purchase order from the customer, be it Raytheon or be it General Dynamics, you don't get to go back to them and say, hey, my health care went up, so I need to raise my prices. It just doesn't happen. And so those are costs that we have to incur. And it's just, and the transparency, it gets very, very frustrating. As you can probably tell in my voice, it gets my blood pressure up. And I just want to be left alone with my 15 employees that we've had forever, pay them good wage, let them go out, buy a home, take care of their families, and it's we've noticed that, since Obamacare over the last 10 years, it just, 10% is kind of a norm, and that's ridiculous. So I'm hoping that when we have a change in the Congress in November, that we really do something. I know we've been here 20 years talking about different things, and I would really love for something to really, happen. So.
Thank you so much. I'd like to get our colleague here, it's on the committee with us, and also, like all of us in this table here, a business person as well back home, and so, Victoria.
Thank you so much, and I can tell you, we get things done. I'm one of the people who get stuff done. And since hills, I pick my battles and hills to die on, but I took all of them, so healthcare is one of them. So we're going to solve it, and I tell you, the solution is actually pretty simple. We always, really complicate things. The only solution to everything we do, including healthcare, it's competition. Competition is going to be success to price, success to value, to cost, and everything else. And complete lack of competition and government takeover of healthcare created the situation we have right now. So if we want to resolve it and bring innovation to healthcare markets, which could be enormous with all of the advances in technology and everything else, what happened in any other industry. If you think about it, healthcare and education are two industries controlled by the government completely. And we live in the last century in each of these industries. We're not educated kids very well, and now destroying our federal budget with wasteful spending on healthcare that doesn't bring value. And we've subsidized a lot of insurance companies, a lot of big hospital monopolies, a lot of people making a lot of money. But people on the ground are getting screwed. And that is the reality. I think Republicans, this is just, I'm very blunt, I tell how it is. And the Republicans need to have a backbone to get it done. So I appreciate that we have people that are willing to take this, very tough decisions, because it's very tough politically to do it, drag stakeholders to the table and says status quo is not going to work. And I think there are some things with, as an affordability subcommittee, we'll be working on that. We have some other committee, but ultimately bringing competition to the market will bring enormous amount of innovation and value to the people. And I think that something has to happen. And we are here sitting in DC thinking that we are better than someone else and know how to tell you how to do, and everyone else is just a joke, because I would say that most people here probably you wouldn't pay $10 an hour, okay? So that is what my perspective.
It might have to be 15.
Yeah, we have to legislate that we go back and get paid is 15. But we do have a good people here, and I truly do. And I think, I've talked to a lot of my colleagues that do care to get something done, and I think we're going to get it done, but you need to keep put pressure on us, So I appreciate being here today and appreciate sharing what's happening, because hearing the real stories in DC is extremely important, because a lot of time people, when they don't do that, I have to keep my sanity to go back in the district. And I'm thinking, okay, is there something wrong with me or DC? And I'm like, because people are normal. There is common sense. You come here and live in the bubble. But I think it's good for you to come here with everyone else is hearing this too, because it's really hurting the people. It's a wage suppression. It's really destroying our economy and then destroying opportunities for innovation. So I think it's very important that we share this. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She has no passion.
I was gonna say, we placed the T with a K in your last name, you're the sparks here.
Well, here's the thing that's really important about what everybody said today, everybody at this table, is that what I found very interesting is that all of you are quoting your healthcare plans and your processes by heart. And that's what a lot of people I hear don't get, and as Victoria and Rick just said, is that people don't understand small business, that you're signing both sides of that paycheck, and the very lifeblood of your business exists in the people you have around you, and you want to take care of them. So all the labels that we hear up here on various committees that we don't care about people, if you don't care about people, you're not in business. And so for you all to be able to quote your health care, you know the impact it's having on your business, that it's had on your business. You know what it was like when you could afford it, and you're trying to figure out how to balance affordability and staying in business and keeping everybody employed. And so the passion that goes along with that is incredible, because those of us, the three of us, small business people for our entire life, we want things to change like right now, because we know that if we don't, that the very nature of small business, at some point in time, you're going to say, I give up. And that's what really started this whole conversation about, you know, making sure that we figure out a solution for small businesses to be able to offer health care. Because when you all give up, and business in general gives up, 165 to 170 million people are privately insured through our corporations and our businesses. If you give up, you are the roadblock, the wall between private insurance and Medicare for all. You know, insurance single payer from the federal government. When businesses like you and others across America give up, there are 30 million small businesses in America. When you all give up, because you can say, at the very end, that my people can go to Obamacare and get health care, and that's the only way I can survive. When that happens, we've lost health care in America, as we know it. And as we know, certainly Victoria has seen the European model personally. It does not work, contrary to what Obama thinks and the Democrat thinks. It does not work. In fact, if you want health insurance, it really works. You have to pay into the national health system, but you go get private insurance. So you're double paying for health care, which is just insane. So with that, we want to go ask some questions. I've got a question here prepared for you all, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this. You all have shared your health care costs. It costs a lot of money, costs a lot of time to manage, the 1095Cs at the end of the year, all these different things that go with it. One of the proposals in our plan is to tackle the unnecessary, outdated reporting requirements. Can you share with us, you've talked about the cost side of this, but can you talk about the unidentified costs associated with this, and actually just manage it, this administration burden that you have, and if you could just talk about how that impacts you and what you would like to see different, that would be awesome. Absolutely.
So the Obamacare era introduced a different type of conversation between the employer and the employee than I'd ever had to have before. It was very uncomfortable, to Jeff's point, and several others. We had to have conversations about their families, how they were covered, and I don't care to be in with them. I want to make sure they have a good work environment and secure employment, and that's it for their health care. I would much rather not be in the position of providing their health care. I'd like for them to have more choices. The kind of reporting that we had to do during that period to even understand what we were eligible for, if we had other choices, was, I've been in business 22 years. I've done some things that seem pretty complicated. That was the hardest thing I ever did. It was very complicated to figure out who was eligible, who wasn't eligible, and if this one person didn't take it, why didn't they take it? And I had to ask them why they didn't take it. You don't want to tell me why you didn't want to take it. We found people who weren't actually married but never told their family they weren't married for 33 years. And just lots of very uncomfortable conversations. So moving away from that is important to us. Additionally, the type of reporting that we have to do every year now has to do with making sure that we do census evaluations and reporting our non-41s to our healthcare company to make sure that the people are really working the hours that they say they're working, and that we're actually paying the portion that our plan says. And you're right, renewal time is the worst time here. It is absolutely the worst. And it's very, very complicated. Our monthly expense is about $12,000 a month. And I only have, I think, 11 people on the plan right now, 38 employees. So the regulations are really, really hard to navigate. And I get to the point now where if they tell me anything less than 10.5%, I just say, just give me the form. Because I've seen 16, 35, 53, and 17, and I'll just sign.
And Melissa, it's very frustrating because you'll get somebody to come in with some other health plan, and they're gonna say, hey, I'm gonna save you
Yeah.
10%.
No,
But
no.
that's based on
Smoke and mirrors
the
for that.
perfect health
Scenario.
right? So now, but you've gotta fill these out. Okay, then you fill them out, you've already gone with them, and then they come back and say, no,
To
it's
do a census
33%
quote.
increase, right?
A
And it's
census
just,
quote is very complicated, because you
It's-
have to have every
That's right.
employee reapply.
Yep.
Then you turn all that in to get your quote.
and if you get up against the time frame,
Yeah,
because that's what
you're in
happens.
trouble.
You got
Yeah.
2 employees that are, whatever, and then you keep begging them to turn in their information, and finally do, and then now you're stuck. And
I did
it's-
have an unusual circumstance this last year, which I shared with you all, that I had an employee come to me and say, I'm eligible for Medicare, are you gonna kick me off the plan? I said, why would I kick you off the plan? I mean, we provide this, of course I want you to be covered, I would never kick you off. And she said, well, I can't afford to go on Medicare. I said, okay, again, a conversation I really don't wanna have about somebody's personal life, but they felt they had to come to me and talk to me about it because of rules and regs. She said that if she went on Medicare, she would no longer be allowed to take a manufacturer's coupon or rebate for a drug that she took as a cancer survivor and as a type 2 diabetic. Both those drugs, I guess, were injectables or whatever. Not a conversation that employees should feel like they need to come and have with me, but we're forced to given the circumstance. She said if she went on Medicare, then she could no longer take that coupon. The result was an additional almost $2,000 a month in drug expense. So she had to stay on our plan. So I called my broker and I said, I'm confused. Why would she think that I have to kick her off? Like, I don't want to kick her off, but is there something I don't know? She said, how many employees do you have? She looks at the plan. Oh, you have, between the 2 companies, 38, you're fine. But if you had less than 20, you would have to kick her off. I said, I would be obligated to remove her from our plan if I had less than 20 employees. She said, yes, you would. So that employee who is at Medicare age
On her 65th birthday.
would not have been able to afford her life-saving drugs
No.
if I had less than 20 employees. And so when I talked about that, my mom said, yeah, I pay, $1,200 a month for a drug that if she were eligible if I illegally put her on my health care plan, which I don't, she would pay about $25 a month for it.
Yeah.
So,
Anybody else have anything they want to offer on this conversation about?
Well, I think one of the things that, to touch on her point, is the time it takes for business owners to navigate through getting quotes and whatnot, but then also back onto the employees. The employees are going to, most of the time, they're going to do that application form at work. And so they're working on it, taking away from productivity in the workforce, but at the same time, again, to her point, every time they've got a question, the employee would then come back to us and ask us because we're the experts. But then we'd have to turn around and go back to the broker, and so it's just being in the middle of the employee and the broker relationship is a challenge because there's things that we don't want to know about the employees because it's none of our business. But we're compelled to have to ask those questions and get clarification because somebody up the chain is requiring that in order to give us a good solid quote.
Well, thank you all. Rick, do you have a thought there, a question?
Yes, sir. And Jeff, Leslie, I love to go to the hardware store. It's one of my favorite things. And in fact, my wife's grandparents were in the hardware business up in Statesville, North Carolina. Okay. So it goes back in the family. But and we talk about how complicated these things are. Let me just tell you this. The federal government is driving all of this. Mm-hmm. Health decisions are being made by bureaucrats in Washington. How long you can stay in the hospital, you can stay 3 days. You know, in our rural hospitals, you transfer a patient to the rural hospital for a period of time. And so we've taken healthcare away from local decisions, which is, again, kind of what the current administration is trying to do throughout the country, is every decision that we deal with in small business is going to be made here, like you know, what organization your employees belong to, and things like that. So that's what we're up against, and you know, we've heard some barriers to you providing your employees with these benefits, and one of the things that in our business we did a few years ago is we got in a co-op for our general liability and workman's comp. Of course, we had to demonstrate that we were a safe company and we protected our employees and their safety. So, and when we got in that co-op, we reduced our general liability and workman's comp in half. And so I asked the question, why can't we have the same thing for healthcare? Mm-hmm. You think about it, and then have the kind of people, experts that we have in the general liability workman's comp side that advise on health plans, you know, meet with your employees and take that burden off of you. Well, we're not allowed to do that. Mm-hmm. Is that amazing? Yeah. Is that amazing? So, kind of give me your opinions on how do you solve this? I mean, you know, what would be you got the barriers, we've heard about that. So if we expanded association health plans and improve access and quality for affordable health care coverage for your folks, what would that look like in your mind?
Oh, I think it'd be greatly beneficial. If we're, you know, if you take all the small businesses that are out there, and all of us are fighting the exact same battle, but individually we're fighting it on our own. If it was allowed for us to form those co-ops, to band together, whether it be through the NFIB or through hardware stores or whatever it is, it would then give us a singular voice that would feel a lot more confident going to the table with a broker or with a brokerage firm, that we're all getting the same story. It's not, I'm getting a story different from Melissa, you know, who's getting a different one from Daryl, which certainly is going to be a challenge because it's across state lines. But at the same time, you know, if it was opened up for the small businesses in North Carolina to band together.
Yeah, that's another question I've asked, is why can't we do it across state lines?
Yeah.
You can do it for workman's comp.
Yeah.
They do it in Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, but why can't you do the healthcare stuff?
You can do it for your own.
Yeah.
You know, and what's interesting to me is, you know, it's almost like they think we're just dumb, right? So are you thinking that my business, Man the Machines, health insurance, doesn't get pulled with his business and her business down the road? Like we're a separate little, like this insurance company, Aetna, has a million different policy things. There's no way. It all goes the same. What I'd like to see too is we are such a smart, technology advanced society in the United States. Why can't you just go to a computer and pick what coverages you want, and it gives you a quote, and there you go.
Yeah. Now, see, Obamacare required you to have
everything.
My wife and I, you know, I mean, we
you
have
get covered for maternity, didn't
yeah.
you? You had to, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
It's just
so it's nuts.
Yeah.
And, and the other problem with you know, with the Obamacare model was that they took the country and divided it up and said, okay, insurance companies, you take this territory. And then they divided it up. In fact, we had
like all the Ma Bells, you know what I mean, back in the day.
Exactly. And so what we have is, and we had some counties in Georgia that did not have coverage.
Eastern North Carolina has
Yeah.
some of those same issues.
Yeah. So obviously it's been a total failure, and we have, but there's so many options and innovations available out there. Anybody else like to chime
The,
in?
the government can complicate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You know, as a kid store, it can truly complicate that. And keeping it more, streamlining it, making it more simple, making associations, bringing us, dealing with the reality that we are all in this together. We all want a healthier society. We all want to keep our workforce. 27 years as a hardware, keeping employees for 27 years. We're a retailer. 6.5 years is our average employee. And you know how hard that is as a McDonald's franchise and everything. And they stay because you care. They stay because you make that connection and you're doing those things. We need government to do the right thing and throw out some of these notebooks really and make it simple.
And that's what we attempted to do when we had last time we had the majority, was to give this healthcare back to the states, and the states hopefully give it back to the communities, so that locally you could deal with these issues rather than some bureaucrat at Health and Human Services up here telling you it's all one size fits all, top down. It never works. This country was built on empowering people from the bottom up. It'll always be a grassroots country, and there's nothing these folks can do about it. I can tell you that.
Right.
Because you're going to see the grassroots show up pretty soon.
Right.
Just quick question from, I've been employed myself too, but with a show of hands, how many of you would rather deal with core goals of your business and strategy and not deal with healthcare at all? Right, sounds like unanimous. And I think that's where we need to get, because ultimately, if we would fix individual market, make it competitive, where each person can get whatever insurance they want, if each person has portability and doesn't have to be attached to any particular insurance, if that market is functioning the way how it should be functioning, actually have pure insurance and then medical care. I don't know, health insurance and medical care are two different things. When we put it together, this has created a big problem, and I think it was done on purpose, truly, I believe done on purpose, with big agenda. So I think if we have a medical care and consumer choice and competition and have health insurance that properly function, I think it should be function will be beneficial for the people. And you should be doing I don't want to deal the same. We were just talking, Melissa. I don't really need to get into people's personal business. It distracts a lot of, businesses from doing what it needs to be done. And really, in reality, you need to have a procurement department, not benefits department, to deal with that. Like you procure anything else, but why would you procure in healthcare? I mean, this is not within your core functions of your businesses. So I'm glad to see that, and I think we need to do it. And I would love to hear some thoughts if you have on this issue, if you want to add, but I feel the same way like you do, so thank you.
There's two things that you said that struck me particularly. One being portability. And a lot of that happens when we change plans. There's always someone who says, I can't use that plan, I can't go to my doctor, I've been to this specialist for 27 years, or whatever. And if you had portability, then the person could have the plan that they knew they could rely on, and we wouldn't go through that every 2 or 3 years.
It wasn't true that you could keep your doctor.
Oh, no, you cannot keep your doctor. There's nobody that kept their doctor. There's like 4 people who were happy with that when we changed. The other thing is, in conversation, every time we talk about it, the words healthcare and health insurance get so intermingled, and you're right, they are not at all the same thing. My healthcare is only related to my health insurance because there's a transaction, and it shouldn't be tied and interchangeable in that way. And it makes me wonder, as a business owner, how did that, taking historically, maybe we need to look really far back and say, how did it ever become part of my responsibility as a business owner? Where historically in our economic experience 50 years ago or whatever it was, when did it become not like your car insurance? Why did it become the responsibility of the business to provide the information and the coverage? How do we get there? And maybe we need to go look at how we got there to figure out how to not be there anymore. Oh, yeah.
Well-
I'm gonna go back and read that. Thank you.
One of the things I have that I've inherited from my father that I have is he had his first heart attack when I was like 2. I was the oops baby, but and one of the things he kept through all his years was the bill from his 17 days in the hospital. And if you adjusted that for inflation, you'd have to add a lot of zeros to it to get anywhere close to what it would cost today, even adjusted for inflation. I mean, it's just, it's unconscionable. And, every small business owner, even the ones that aren't at this table, have 2 things in common, every business owner. We don't have enough time and we don't have enough money. But we're all here talking about how this affects and how we can invest in our team and our people and our communities.
So I want to add something. So a lot of the health insurance decisions that I make are based on my spouse looking at what's coming because of that portability issue, right? Well, our doctors aren't on this new plan, and so it's like, okay, well then we won't go with a new plan that's less expensive or better choices, right? Because of that conflict that, I mean, as a small business owner, the family's involved in the business, right? Whether they want to be or not. And so, and then another issue that I have with all this is that I have a 26-year-old son who has Asperger's, who graduated from college, just finished his first year of law school, but guess what? He turned 26 on June the 11th. So by the end of this month, he's got to go somewhere else. I asked for information for him because he has a disability, right? But the way the form and stuff, I would have to really make up something for him to stay on. And I told, me and my wife were talking about it. I said, Stacy, we can't do this because it'll come back and get us now. So now we're in a panic for the next 2 weeks to try to find him some insurance, right? Because he does have, because of his Asperger's, he takes some medications. And so, they were covered under my prescription. Well, now they're not. And so they're going to go from whatever, $30 a month to, I don't know, maybe $300 a month or $500 a month. And, you talk about inflation. There's inflation that happens today, so.
Right, but then they make bad decisions. My mother-in-law is a diabetic, and at 74,
Right.
and she'll try to stretch her insulin because she doesn't want to burden me with the $500 bill and get her insulin. I'm like, that's not a choice. It's, and so then you end up with other outcomes that are even worse because you didn't do what you were supposed to, the health care that was available to you when you try to stretch things like that.
Well, what we know is the federal government doesn't do a lot of things really well, and this is certainly one that it has done very poorly. And we've worked passionately, certainly before we got here, and that's what the purpose of the leader put together these teams is to spend some time looking at these as opposed to getting the majority and saying, okay, now we got to start working on them. So I want to give Leader McCarthy and his team a lot of kudos, a lot of foresight to sit here and look, 18 months before we take back the majority. So let's start working on these things that are important to America. And this Healthy Future Task Force, as you know, is not only a huge monetary cost, it's a very big time cost in small businesses in America. And I do think it's very important that we address these issues and that we get after these. Everything you've talked about today are in our top 3 priorities as you all looked at on this agenda. That's because you have small business people working on small business issues, which I think, people have asked me when I first came to Congress 3.5 years ago, what was my biggest surprise? And I said, how many people talk about things they know absolutely nothing about? I got the same response every time I say that, but you can be rest assured, as you've heard us ask questions, and so many people that are on this team, Leader McCarthy's done a great job of putting people on these subcommittees and on the overall committee on each one of these areas of the task force that know about these. Doctors are talking about doctor-patient relationship. Pharmacists are talking about the pharmaceutical issues. That's how it's supposed to work. Put people on there that they don't have to have a run up in a learning curve to understand what really goes in the real world applications, as Victoria spoke about. It is refreshing for us all to go back home and get, common sense applications, and as you all come here and give us your inputs. And again, I love the fact that you're doing this from your heart, not from some talking points that you all have put together. I also want to give a big shout out to NFIB and all the work that Kevin and team do over there. Mitch, thank you, because it takes a collective voice to be able to be heard up here. And with the over 700,000 businesses that they represent across the country, it's very impactful. It's a very good statistical model that they use to represent the voices across America. It's been an honor to be involved in this. I'm actually an NFIB member back home, as I'm sure both of these folks are as well. So I just want to say thank you there. And lastly, I just want to thank you for taking your time away from your businesses to come up here. What you all know, you have, again, friends, people who understand, that feel your pain, and I mean that in a genuinely sincere way, that it takes all of us working together to move this machine. You know, Rick said it best, the federal government is really inept when it comes to managing healthcare from a central point at CMS. And, you know, I don't think there's people, they're trying to do anything evil. It's just very difficult. If you listen to what each one of you said, you all have issues with healthcare and trying to manage that, but every one of yours was a little bit different. How can a single entity in Washington, D.C. manage all those intricacies in your small businesses across America? It is not possible. It has to be done at the local level. And so the bigger thing in all of this is it takes a ground-up approach to tell the American people across America that we've got to all get engaged. And apathy has been the reason that we've seen a lot of things happen in America, including this inflationary measures that we're seeing right now, and you're seeing the American push back, and that's why you're going to see the Republicans take the House and the Senate this fall, and I think the presidency in 2024, because they're sick of all the engagement of the federal government into our lives. So again, I want to thank each of you for being here. I want to thank my two colleagues here for all the hard work that we've done over the last year in doing this. I want to thank Leader McCarthy for allowing us to do it in this environment where we have this information recorded so that you all can use this. Let your colleagues know, and for the folks at NFIB know, that we're here fighting for you. And I think that's the most important thing, that you know you have folks that are fighting for you. Thank you all so much. Safe journeys home.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us.